Starting, all attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, we are going to call to order our agenda for the Architectural Board of Review for July 27th of 2020. If we could start with a roll call.
Yes, this is Mary, Commission Secretary. I will take roll call. We have Chair Moore,
Present.
Vice Chair Six,
Here.
thank you. Board Member Black,
Here.
Board Member Cunningham,
Here.
Board Member Olson,
Here.
and it appears that Board Member Watkins and Whalen are absent.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we are gonna now move on to general business and public comment. Any member of the public may address the board for up to 2 minutes on any subject within our jurisdiction is not scheduled on this agenda. Do we have anybody?
All right, so if there's anyone here that would like to speak to the board on anything not on today's agenda, there will be a raise hand button, but typically the top right portion of your screen. And once you click that, the hand will turn red, which means that your hand is raised. Red means raised. So I'm not seeing anyone right now. And we have not received any written correspondence. Give it a couple more seconds. Again, red means raised. Click on the hand icon. And I'm not seeing any. So I will turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so with that, we will close public comment and move on to approval of the minutes for the July 13th meeting.
So moved. With discussion. Second.
Okay, all right, then let's hear your discussion.
Yes, if we go to item 1, 1230 San Andreas, motion number 4. Kevin, I think we want to say the board looks forward to seeing the project's design mature. I don't want to stand around and watch this building age with time.
Yeah, that's fine. I agree.
Okay. And then on item 5, I don't know what page it is.
Does the
121.
seconder of the motion accept that change? Nope, still muted.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Then on the big one, on item under motion number under the motion, the second motion, it's just a typo. Number 5, applicant shall provide story polls for the board and the public too, and then strike the first to get a better understand. So the applicant shall provide story polls for the board and the public to get a better sense of mass, both scale and scale of the building.
Agreed.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, anything else? All right, we had our first and second. Let's do our vote.
All right, this is Mary. I will take the roll call vote. Chair Moore, Chair Moore,
Chair Moore, it seems you're muted.
I think we're having some audio issues with Chair Moore.
Yeah, it just froze up for a minute. Am I back on?
You're back on, and we weren't able to get your vote.
Okay, so yes.
all right, Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Cunningham,
Yes.
Board Member Olson,
Yes.
and Board Member Watkins and Whalen are absent.
Okay, thank you. And moving on to, do we have additional move? Yes, we have consent calendar for today.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So for item, this is Matthew Ozumos. Item A, 2980 State Street was postponed and so that should read indefinitely. I apologize due to the applicant's absence. I do have to reach out to the applicant. Item B, 6 East Valerio Street, received project design and final approval with comments. Item C, 402 East Gutierrez Street was given project design and final approval with comments. And item E, which was 712 West Anapomo Street, was continued indefinitely to the staff hearing officer with comments.
Move that we approve.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? No? Okay, let's do a roll call vote.
All right, we have Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Cunningham,
Yes.
and Board Member Olson.
Yes.
Okay, Watkins and Whalen are absent and the motion passes.
Okay, thank you. And moving on, what do we have next? Any announcements or requests by applicants, etc.?
Chair Moore, we have had, we have two announcements today. Board Member Cunningham will be leaving us due to a conflict of interest on items 1, 2, and 3, and will be returning for item 4, which is 827 Orange Avenue. And item 3 on the agenda, I'll re-announce this when that item does come up, has a typo. It should read, all addresses that have Junipero on them should say West Junipero, not East Junipero.
Okay, thank you. And I don't imagine we have any subcommittee reports at this time.
No.
Yeah, and all right. So with that, we can conclude general business. And do we have the applicants for item number 1?
Yes.
Okay. We're slightly ahead of schedule, but we'll take that where we can get it. And I will introduce the project. So this is item number 1, 501 Niños Drive, concept review. And this is a proposal for renovation and alterations to Dwight Murphy Field, including conversion of an existing grass soccer field to artificial turf with new fencing, lighting, replacement of existing buildings with restrooms at new location, and accessible pathways. Additional new amenities include a fitness area, youth baseball field, picnic areas, and a universally accessible playground. The project will also involve conversion of Park Road to primarily one-way circulation with angled parking and redesigned park entries. No final appealable decision will be made at this hearing. This project requires compliance with the project compatibility analysis, the urban design guidelines, outdoor lighting design guidelines, and was last here November 5th of 2018. All right. Did we have, I believe we had comments from the last time. Is that something we should go through, or has there been significant changes? Oh, here we go. Here was our motion. So this is also probably a new item for some folks. Is that the case? David and Leon?
Yep.
Imagine you were not present during this.
That's correct.
Right.
Okay. But as this is a still in conceptual design. I believe that's okay, correct, Matthew?
So this was reviewed previously as a concept review, so it wasn't a pre-application, so it does not count as a new project.
Okay.
In order to participate in the vote, there would have to be some homework done.
So, sorry, Matthew, let's get some clarity on that then. Can you repeat that? Because this is
Yes,
still
so
a
for those members
conceptual
who-
review.
Yeah. So this was previously here for an initial concept review. The comments that are on the screen right now were given. The board members who were not in attendance at that meeting will have had to, prior to this meeting, reviewed the video and minutes. I mean, the minutes are here, but would have to review the video to study up on what the previous conversation was on the project. So I'll ask for verbal verification from those members who were not here as to whether or not they had a chance to review the video prior to this meeting.
Okay, well, I mean, the action says that I was absent, but I believe I was either present or watched the video. It was some time ago, but I do recall the project and the comments that were made. So I believe I'm able to participate.
I think you were there. I think you were there, Kevin.
Yeah, that's my memory.
Jill,
I am getting older.
Jill, do you remember if Kevin was there? Jill, do you remember if Kevin was there?
Are you asking me? I'm sorry.
Yes.
No, I don't, because I had a different staff member that presented, but we can go back and review.
No.
I'm familiar with the project.
Okay, if you're familiar with the project, I think that's okay. I believe Mr. Olson and Mr. Whalen and Mr. Black will need to weigh in as to whether or not they've watched the video. And if they have not, they can still sit and the applicant can still present and comments can still be made. This isn't out here for action, so we don't need 4 members voting on the item. So if a number of the board need to abstain, then
Mr. Chair, Matthew, the minutes say that only Moore and Watkins were absent. So Leon and
I don't think they were part of the board at that point.
I started the board in January 19.
And I apologize. I'm not seeing the date on these minutes. I believe they were November 18. November of 18. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, so do we have 4 members?
So yeah, so as I said, this isn't something that's here for action at this time, so we can hear the presentation. Those members who have not had a chance to review video and minutes can ask questions. They cannot comment and they cannot vote. But this can move forward as a presentation.
Okay, great. Well, at any rate, we'll of course use
We're ready to begin?
the renovation of the park, restudy the proposed lighting and field locations of proposed lighting, study to provide canopy trees along the field. Are people hearing me?
No. You want me to read it,
I'm
Kevin?
getting a lot of feedback, actually.
Mr. Chair, I think we're having some issues with your audio, or it seems like an internet connectivity issue. I might suggest, Mr. Six, if you wouldn't mind going through the comments, and then Mr. Chair, I recommend that you maybe switch to phone call audio just to see if that can have a better connection.
Okay.
So, Kevin, if I may, the board generally supports the renovation of the park and accessible playground for the children and family to use. We studied the proposed lighting and field locations of proposed lighting. Study to provide canopy shade trees along the soccer field, and study creating more space along the side of the playing fields to provide team and spectator seating. Study to provide wheel stops and/or planters within the parking lot in order to deter the public from driving the wrong direction at the end of the intersection at Ninos and Polomar. Study providing real turf instead of artificial turf in the soccer field. Study providing curb stops at the diagonal parking at Ninos Drive and to provide additional landscape planting. Study providing an alternate transportation such as bus transit, pick up and drop off locations.
Great. Can you hear me now? Is that?
Yes.
Yes, that's much better.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Okay, applicant, take it away.
All right, Chair Moore, members of the Architectural Board of Review, Jill Zachary, Parks and Recreation Director. I have with me today our consultants with RRM that have been working with us on this project since spring 2018. When the board did see this project back in November of 2018, we brought it to you as the result of an extensive community engagement process whereby we met with stakeholders, we held workshops, we did concept planning, we conducted surveys in order to prepare a master plan and a renovation plan that most closely aligned with as many of our community members as possible. Dwight Murphy Field is a very unique location in Santa Barbara, given its proximity to the coast, other recreational amenities. It's been a city park since 1925, and it was originally called the Municipal Soccer Field. One of the wonderful things about this park is it is large. It is just over 10 acres, 10.4 acres, which gives us the opportunity to provide the only appropriately sized multi-sport field in the city of Santa Barbara, where we are very much short of field space and have a huge demand for that field space. So we're back with you today because the master plan did go to City Council in January 2019. They gave us the green light to move forward with preliminary design. We're back before the ABR. We are going to address the comments that were made in November, as well as present where we are with the design package. And it's our intent to be reviewing the project both at the Street Tree Advisory Committee, Parks and Recreation Commission, and to initiate the coastal development permit application process in the month of August to move this project forward. So if this gives you a sense of the project, if we could go to the next slide, please. I'd just like to point out what Dwight Murphy is today and point out that near where you see Park Road at the top of the slide, there is a small playground. And one of the most unique and wonderful aspects of this project is the collaboration that we have with the Gwendolyn Strong Foundation. Victoria Strong of the foundation is registered as a public commenter as part of this hearing. We've been working with the foundation since 2017 to identify and work toward a universally accessible playground within a city park in Santa Barbara. Dwight Murphy Field rose to the top of the list for a number of reasons: access, parking, restrooms, space, and also that it's part of a larger park setting. So as part of the design that the board's seen before and you will continue to see today is a result of that collaboration. And that collaboration starts with design. It's also included funding. The Gwendolyn Strong Foundation is co-funding the preliminary design of this project. And then we'll move forward to helping fundraise to actually implement and conceive of the project. Next slide, please. So this gives you a sense of what's on the ground today. The restrooms date back to 1969. The fitness area actually dates to the early 80s. There are many aspects that are well loved about this park and well used, and you can see with the photograph in the center, so much so that we have to close the park 4 times a year for periods of up to 4 weeks each time to recover the grass in order to provide the opportunity for play space for all of the field use it's in demand for. And that really leads to the rationale and the reasoning behind proposing artificial turf for this project. We have huge demand for field space. We can't meet it all. By looking toward and implementing artificial turf in this location, we will be able to enhance the use of this park tremendously for many different park users. If I could go to the next slide, please. And then this gives you the site plan. I'm going to turn the presentation over to Jeff Ferber for RRM. Just quickly point out that we are essentially wanting to rebuild all of the great amenities that we currently have in the park, just bring them up to today's standards, provide a wonderful accessible playground, provide a youth baseball field, which is natural turf, and then bring forward a multi-sport synthetic turf field that can be used by people of all ages and groups, and as well as provide adult fitness and other amenities, and including enhancing the parking and circulation within the park. Thank you. Jeff?
Thanks, Jill. Good afternoon, members of the board. I'm Jeff Ferber from RM Design Group. We have quite a few slides, so I'm going to hit on just a couple of points per slide, and I will cover your comments, and I'll let you know when I get to those comments. Next slide, please. Okay, this is an overview sketch, and the key points to be made here is it's a very active park, but it is an active park with a lot going on, but also has passive spaces integrated throughout as well. Key point to be made here is that we've added a lot of additional parking, and there's a substantial landscape, as you can see in this sketch. It's really a park for everybody, and I'll be covering that. Next slide, please. In this sketch, you can see we're sort of over the park road, closer to the railroad tracks, and we're looking over the fitness and the athletic field. Notice the new parking lot on the left. That's a completely new parking lot. And this sketch highlights the sort of entrance space that is adjacent to the fitness area and the entrance to the athletic field, as well as all the pedestrian opportunities that are being introduced to the park. There's an entire network of pathways that do not exist in today's Dwight Murphy. Next slide, please. In this sketch, you're looking directly over the, my sheet's out of order. You're looking from the zoo back towards the park. And what we're emphasizing in this sketch is kind of the passive nature of this large community green, which doubles as the outfield to the small baseball field. Also, activities that people who aren't participating in something active, like people watching and walking. Next slide, please. As Jill mentioned, the Gwendolyn's playground is a really significant part of the project. The essence of this playground, which is approximately an acre in size, is it's a concept that captures the excellence of Victoria's little girl Gwendolyn and the favorite activities that she enjoyed at playgrounds and in life in general. It's a playground that has a large emphasis on sensory orientation. It does not just address physical challenges that people may have, and it's designed to be a play space for people of all generations, grandparents, every member of the family, regardless of their situation in life. Next slide, please. This is a sketch looking from the community green area towards the playground, and sort of emphasizes the multi-generational aspect and how the park and playground are one and the same, even though there is an edge to it. And in the back of the sketch, just like I'd like to point out the treehouse. The treehouse is the main anchor of the project, and I'll be able to cover that probably more with some of the questions that you may have during later part of the meeting. please. Okay, and this is kind of a collage of some of the features that are likely to be included. They aren't exactly the elements, but the ones I'd like to point out are the kind of bridge feature, kind of the catwalk in the lower part of the sheet. That is to access the multi-level aspect of the treehouse. And then the butterfly, which kind of emphasizes the art and the whimsical nature of the playground. The butterfly happened to be Gwendolyn's favorite creature. And then the sensory spinners and other elements that are designed for not just disabilities, which you might think of in terms of someone being in a wheelchair, but also in the range of autistic children that might visit the playground. Next slide, please. Okay, 5 minutes. All right. The next couple of sheets shows some of the furniture that has been selected for the site. We have fencing and paving and seat walls. This sheet shows a picnic structure, which is a very open structure, intended to be one that you wouldn't spend a great deal of time under. The fencing of the playground is low. It's to secure the playground so that children don't wander out of that space unless their parent intends them to. And then the taller sports field fence, which is intended to be more difficult to climb and vandalize, and yet still be attractive. Next slide, please. All of the site furniture is consistent with the site furniture palette that exists in the city parks throughout Santa Barbara. I'm not going to make any particular points on this slide. Next slide, please. And you know, the fitness area being relocated and kind of reimagined so that it's a key part of the park. The emphasis is strength, agility, or adult fitness. These pieces of equipment are not necessarily the exact equipment. There's more work to be done to figure out the final equipment for the fitness area. Next, please. Related to planting, the key points are that we are trying to balance that this is an active play space, a park that has sports as well as a very dynamic playground. Maintenance concerns, providing adequate shade. Water conservation, of course, is important in Santa Barbara, as you know. And there are 125 new trees proposed to offset the about 39 trees that need to be relocated to accommodate the site grading and other demolition that's happening. Next slide, please. I'm not going to say anything about this slide, so we can go on to the next one. This is just to give you, and this has some of the plant palette, and I'm sure that Mr. Black and others may have some questions for us on the plant palette. Next, please. This is the demo plan. I'm not going to cover anything in detail here. The site is essentially going to be demolished, and the park will be almost completely rebuilt. Maybe a key exception is the parking lot on the left. You'll recognize that, and that's going to be kind of remodeled. Next slide. On this sheet, it's kind of emphasizing the parking lot, and it covers one of the comments that your board made, which is next to the fitness area, we've provided a bus drop-off area right on the edge of the parking lot. Next slide. Another comment. Let's see. Okay. On this one, on the lower left of the slide, we've extended the curb. That was comment number 4 from your board about extending the curb so somebody driving, I guess, sort of northwest bound on Port Lamar would not turn right back onto the park road. So that's been handled. Next, please. And then on Niños Drive, we've, per your comment number 6, we added wheel stops and planters. We added 4 planters on the street in that parking area. And just for a reference for a slide, some slides coming up, the restroom right at that stairway at Port Lamar in the bottom part of the slide, I want to point out that the restroom is 9 feet below street grade there. Next slide. And then I'm skipping this one to the next one after this. Okay, the restroom is a self-cleaning restroom. This has 6 toilets, 4 accessible, including one very large one on the lower right there next to the playground. Next slide. And on this one, you can see the elevation. It's 9 feet 8 inches tall. Next slide. And on this slide, you can see the materials, the wood batten, the fiberboard, the aluminum roof. And next slide. And then some photographs cleaning a restroom that we did up in the Bay Area on the right. Next slide. This is the trash enclosure at the parking lot. It's similar to the one we proposed in Ortega Park. It's got a roof on it. It's stucco. It's got a pedestrian entry in the back. Next slide. As I'm now, Mr. Chair, I'm now seeing that I'm out of time, and there's a couple of few slides about lighting if you'd like me to make a few points. Otherwise, I can cover that during the question and answer.
Well, why don't you just take one more minute to get through the lighting, and then we'll move to questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Lighting, you asked us to look at the location, so we've looked at the performance of the lighting locations. Next slide, please. We have 4 light poles on the athletic field / soccer field. Next slide. You can see kind of the cutoff nature where it focuses the light on the field, not the neighborhood. Light control. Next slide. And then we have a series of photometrics. This is for lighting performance in the field. Next slide, please. And then we looked at neighborhood spill, and we're within the ordinance of keeping below 0.1 foot candles. After the property line, we're at closer to 0.04 along Port Lamar, so we're substantially below the ordinance. Next slide. That slide's in error. Next slide. And then I think the last, one more, please. It shows lighting location for pedestrian light fixtures within the park. And the last slide, please, shows that we looked at the foot candles for those lights. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I appreciate your diligence with our timer. Okay, we are going to now open public comment for this item. Is there anybody in the public that would like to make comments?
Hi, yes. So if you are in the audience and you would like to speak, there is a little hand icon typically found in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. And when you click on it, it should turn red. Red means raised. So I do see Victoria Strong. I'm going to unmute you and mute myself so you don't hear my birds. I believe you wanted slide 9 up once you began starting. So we'll bring that up for you and I'll unmute you now.
Hi, thank you so much for all of your consideration. I'm Victoria Strong, the founder of the Gwendolyn Strong Foundation, and I'm absolutely thrilled by this latest plans. We've been working really hard at all these different features. Every single feature here was purposefully chosen for a specific reason. And I want to specifically talk a little bit about the colors. The colors, the research shows colors are a really important part of childhood play. It can actually it can actually encourage children to play more energetically, and it can bring together cooperation and socialization. As you may know, 20% of the population has a disability, and we currently have no playgrounds anywhere in Santa Barbara to bring people together. And I believe now more than ever with COVID-19, we've really seen how important socialization is. And for families with disabilities, this is something that they face on a regular basis. And so we see all of these features as an opportunity to bring children and adults of all abilities together to provide a sense of belonging in our beautiful community. And we know from firsthand experience with my own daughter that Gwendolyn was profoundly disabled by SMA, which is much like ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, but she was also one of the most social children I have ever known. And in the many inclusive experiences we had in her life, we saw that not only did it benefit her well-being, that actually she had a profound impact on other children, on other adults, and it helps create a society that has more empathy and more acceptance. And we want Gwendolyn's Playground to be a highlight of Santa Barbara that celebrates diversity and allows us to celebrate all the ways we're unique.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else? Matthew?
All right, so we'll bring that screen back up, just giving you some instructions if you do want to speak. Again, red means raised. So once you click on it, you'll see a little red arrow pointing down, and that means your hand's raised. It's a little counterintuitive. So it doesn't look like we have anyone who wishes to speak any further, and we have not received any written public comment, Mr. Chair.
Okay, great. We will close public comment and go to questions from the board. If we could have all the board members turn their webcams on, so we can see who we have. Okay. Richard, do you have any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thanks. There comment from the previous review, there was concern about where the spectators, which I understand is quite a big part of the soccer experience, that there's there's bleachers and there's a lot of spectators, and I don't see where. The question would be, where do you anticipate spectators to be serviced when watching the soccer field?
Yeah, this is Jeff. If we could go to, it's fairly early in the slide presentation. I think that the thumbnail is labeled L6. Okay. I think this is a pretty good view, board member 6. We do recall that, and we looked at, we did adjust the field, the line work on the field. We were trying to balance the design where we're starting from the street and we have some grading and drainage issues. So the field and its constraints based on that plus the circulation around the field sort of set the Port Lamar edge of the field. Then moving towards the railroad tracks, Highway 101, we eventually get to a point where we have a pinch point where the Park Road intersects the soccer field. So those were sort of our key points. Then we looked at what we could fit within there. And we were trying to balance a size of the field that the soccer community told us they were looking for, with some room for the teams that were involved in the game, as well as families. Part of what we did was we tried to enhance this area outside of the field so that there was a natural grass area and a place for easy up tents, place to kind of hang out for the kids, as well as room just inside the fence. The amount of space we have just inside the fence is big enough for like a row of people, or two along the fence. and then a little bit of a gap, and then room for the teams or a team bench. There won't be any bleacher seating like there is today at Dwight, or was recently at Dwight Murphy.
All right, I get it. I think back on your sheet three or something where you have your plan, there is a C-shaped dark mark right in front of the entry. Yeah, if we scan down to the lower right-hand corner, lower right-hand, zoom up to the intersection of Por Lamar and Minos, there's a right below the number 2, yeah, right at that corner. What is that C mark? It's a circular thing. Is that a structure?
Oh, you mean, okay. Yeah, this is where it'd be great to be in person again with a pointer and stuff. Well, that circular thing, that oval, it connects the tree. Picture the tree is in 3 levels. There's a bit of a sort of a basement under the roots, kind of a cavey structure where the kids are playing underneath the roots of the tree.
No, I'm sorry. See where the mark number 2 is?
Oh, right there. Okay.
Right there.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of a gateway statement. What's that dark line?
It's just a sign wall.
It's just a sign wall. I guess it's maybe a not completely worked out detail. How's that?
I think there's an AutoCAD line as well.
Yeah.
The property line.
Yeah, we got property lines there. We got a little bit of a plaza, and it looks like a bit of a wall, but so obviously we have a handicap ramp there, so.
Okay, so it's intended to be some kind of structure above grade.
Yeah.
Okay, and just a minor one, and never mind that one. And the fence around the soccer is 8 feet high and black.
Yeah, I think we showed 2 different heights in the details. It says, in one place it says 6 to 8 feet, in another place it says 8 feet. Both here and Ortega Park, there's a lot of discussion with departments trying to determine how high the fence should be in terms to secure the field. And the color, we are showing a black fence in the example there. Yes.
So it's that height for security, or is it that height for ball play?
It's to secure the field. It will keep a lot of the balls in, but the idea is that the department's gonna program the field, and we were concerned with some fences that people would climb it and go in and use it without having it, a permit for it. So it's kind of a no climb fence. The product does come in multiple colors. It does not necessarily have to be black.
Okay, I think those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dennis, do you have questions?
Only one small question on sheet L9, the illustration. I wanted to know are the restrooms visible in this illustration? Wouldn't they be over on the middle right?
Correct. They would be just off the sketch to the right of that entry plaza.
Just off the sketch. That answers my question. Thank you.
Mr. Olson, questions?
Yes, I'm at the moment focused here on the playground. And first of all, I'd comment on the creative, colorful nature of this. It seems quite engaging. If someone was approaching this park on a bicycle, where would they park their bikes?
Okay, that's a good question. If we could go to sheet L7, you can see both the bike parking and the playground at the same time. Okay, you can see there in the trellis structure on the bottom right, there's some bike parking.
Yes.
And then over there to the left is the playground. And we also have bike parking right at the entrance to the playground. You can see it on the plan, but it's tiny. But there is some additional bike parking right next to the entry to the playground.
So that looks like there might be less than 15 parking places. Would that be true?
Well, that's one of several locations. I think we have three locations. There's another one over by the fitness area, one by the playground, and this one by the picnicking. And maybe by the baseball. Do we have anybody? Yeah.
Okay, and then I didn't get a chance to really digest the playground lighting. Could we go to that sheet?
Okay. That is near the end. Sheet T8. So well, I'll see if you have, is there a particular question for me or?
Well, it just seems, I think that the green are the pole lights, and I don't see any of those in that playground area, except around the periphery on the interior side. And so it doesn't seem very well lit.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And here's the response to that. In general, the park night use will be the soccer/athletic field. The baseball field does not have night lighting, and the green pole light is emphasizing pedestrian safety on the circulation in and around the park. In particular, you might have people that walk to the park or park on the street and walk into a soccer field. The playground itself would not be open at night, and the gates would be closed. And Jill may want to follow up on the answer, but we don't have lighting inside. We might have some security lighting added in there, but not for night use by children.
But isn't that a main entrance through the playground?
No, there's a gate there, and you can go, if you came to the intersection of Niños and Por Lamar, you would walk either on Por Lamar or Niños on the sidewalk that's adjacent to the street. Both of those would be new sidewalks that are not there today. So we're providing, and then you would go to the stairway by the restroom and go down, or you would continue down closer to near the entrance to the zoo, and you would come into the park that way, not through the playground.
So there is a fence around the playground?
Correct.
That's all my questions. That's all my questions.
Kevin, are you on?
Mr. Chair, it seems like we're not getting any audio from you. It looks like your audio is turned off at the moment. Can you try testing it one more time?
Just trying.
Okay, now it's
How about
working.
now?
I'm not really sure what the issue is, but you're back on.
Okay. That was all your questions, Leon? Okay.
No more questions.
Okay, David?
Thanks. So two questions generally. The first one so was there a study to sort of determine the capacity of those, of that one bathroom I'm just sort of, when I look at it off the top, it just seems it's tucked way down there near the playground and the ball field. And I'm wondering whether or not, just given how many people show up at Dwight Murphy on a weekend, whether or not that bathroom, you're comfortable with that it's going to be able to service the number of people there. And just, I'm a little concerned about just the location of it, tucked way down there in the corner. And whereas if you had one, an additional bathroom, let's say up there by the exercise area, with good proximity to all the parking, then all the folks that are, observing the soccer matches, they wouldn't have to walk all the way down to that corner. Anyway, so my question is, was there some consideration for, are you comfortable with the size of the bathrooms and its ability to service as many people as going to be there? That's my first question.
Okay, well, thank you for that question, because it does remind me that I left one of the points that I intended to make in the presentation was that the restroom location is really specific. We have a floodplain issue in Dwight Murphy Park, and we are required to locate the building outside of the floodplain. And that is the only spot outside of the floodplain. The current restroom location and much of the park is in the floodplain. It does turn out to be very convenient for a main generator of users, which is the playground. It's going to draw folks from around the county and perhaps parts of Ventura County to come to the playground. We did add a gate at the bottom of the soccer field, the lower right corner. We provided an exit gate so the soccer players could exit, and then it's not a very far distance from that corner. As far as the number of toilets, it's a good question. As you know, you could always debate how many is the right number, and what we came down on that number because they're all accessible, so everybody can use all of them. I mean, there's two of them that aren't as large, but if there weren't a lot of people in the playground, the soccer players could use any of them. We feel comfortable with the number. We talked with Jill and her team quite a bit, but I wouldn't say that there was a statistical study. I do think we have quite a few more toilets that are there today. Functionally usable toilets in Dwight Murphy today are fewer than that.
Interesting. Okay.
If I could just add, Chair Moore and Commissioner Black, if you actually look at sheet L7, it also gives you a view of what they look like. We didn't have that in a prior view, and you can see where they're located.
So getting back to my question, so you're cognizant of the number of people that would be at Dwight Murphy Field at any one time, and the number of toilets that you have provided is going to be adequate to the task, over and above the location. But anyway, I'm assuming.
And
that
David, we're getting into
okay,
areas that are kind of beyond our scope. So
okay. My other question had to do with circulation. If you could go back to the site plan. So I'm looking at the angled parking along Los Niños, and I realize it's been there since the beginning. But so how does one access those angled parking? You come up Los Niños as if you're going to the zoo entry, and are you able to make a left turn into the angled parking that way? Or spaces?
No, it's an interesting question you bring up. The parking was studied a lot with the city's traffic department, and ultimately the one-way road and the whole configuration was kind of where it came down. You have to go down and circulate through the parking lot and come back to the angle parking, which which is not there today. The angle parking on Niños is new, and you would actually come back to it as opposed to enter it from, say, the beach. You'd have to go down into the parking lot and circulate around.
Okay. And then my last question has to do with the small parking lot at the north end of the ball field. We could look at that. So my understanding is that Park Road is going to be one way from essentially running from the zoo toward Port Lamar. Is that right?
That's correct.
And that parking lot, just given the angled parking and the circulation, so if you wanted to go down one lane or one aisle rather, and go to and then circle, you'd have to go out onto Park Road to do it, wouldn't you? So Park Road becomes part of the parking lot. Is that the intent?
Yeah, exactly. Park Road is sort of being repurposed to be part of the parking lot, as opposed to today, where today it's really like a road where the UPS guy will go 50 miles an hour flying by. That will not be the case because it'll be narrowed some and will be one way, so it'll be more of a parking lot.
I see. Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay. The one question. So to the east side of the park, the new diagonal parking. Sorry about the sirens. On Niños Drive. So it's a brand new sidewalk all the way down Port Lamar and Niños. And I know we'd commented last time about adding the trees along Niños Drive and studying, rather than the wheel stops, sort of more of a sawtooth curb design to get more planted area along the street. Can you tell us about that and why that's either not feasible or not desirable?
It is feasible and desirable. We did add that. We added the wheel stops, and we added there's 5 planters along Niños that were not there the last go around. We just sort of made a judgment call at this point to not try to put too many trees in there with a concern over just maintenance in general. But so I'm not sure if I'm following. There's something in particular, but we did add the stops and we added some planters.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think on Niños, yes. My question is really, the wheel stops are nice, and the trees are great addition. But is there a reason why the curb line itself couldn't replace the wheel stops and gain planter area?
Oh, I see what you mean. You mean every single space having a sawtooth?
Yeah.
We would need to look at the drainage, the stormwater flow, the gutter obviously is the mechanism that we're carrying the water. So every time you add a sawtooth, you got to take the water through that, which means you're shrinking the size of that planter area. So I think what we were trying to do was add some trees to address your comments. And we were thinking it would probably be decomposed granite below it, because people get out of the cars, they walk through the planters. If there's, not another means, they tend to trample it, trying to provide extra shade. So.
Okay. And from memory, that, at least along Niños, it falls down and the grade falls into the park.
Right.
Yep. And eventually it catches up about halfway, like roughly where the number 11 is. You're back on even grade? Between Ninos
somewhere in
and,
that.
yeah, okay.
You can see it on sheet
And there's
on the second sheet L2. You can see the planting where the grade changes.
Okay, and then overall, so the trees that exist around the perimeter of the park now, would they remain, or are those going to be replaced?
Kind of most, well, they're mostly coming out, or yeah, most of those trees around the edge. There's some substantially large ones over next to Park Road that are staying. As you get over on Port Lamar, we are doing quite a bit of grading there on the street and the playground, and substantial adjustments to the existing conditions where the trees would come out and be replanted.
And but you're planning a total of how many trees with this project?
125.
Okay. All right, those are my questions. So
Kevin?
why don't we move in? Yeah, oh, sorry, Richard, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I have one more question. What materials do you see the magic tree and toadstools and some of the other play structures to be in? Have you gotten that far?
Yeah, we can give you an idea. The surfacing would be a rubberized fall surface like you see, because the equipment and that's all throughout the playground has to have fall zones on it. You have to have that cushioning, so it would be rubberized. The toadstools would be, we imagine it being, there's a foam product we've used before that has a hard shell on it. So it's kind of a lightweight material that then gets a hard shell coating on it.
Fiberglass type of thing?
Yeah, that probably something similar to that in terms of its feel.
And then a tree?
The tree would be concrete and wood.
And the leaves above the tree?
Probably metal.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Ready to move into comments? David, would you like to start with comments?
Well, the question, since I didn't see the original video from a year and a half ago, can I make comments?
Okay. I guess not. So that leaves, and Dennis, did you review the minutes or the video from this last review? Okay.
I did.
So I guess, okay, so I guess it's just Richard and myself that can make comments at this point, unfortunately. So Richard.
Yes,
why don't you start?
Mr. Chair. As I indicated in my questions, I think it, and I don't know what the research and the community outreach, but I think it's a serious omission not to have some kind of elevated viewing for the soccer field, because that's a big deal down there. And just, you know, put the spectators on the ground where the perspective is not that great for soccer, especially, is a serious omission. And I would highly recommend that bleachers be studied, whether inside the fence confines or outside just behind them. So that's number one. Number two, I think even though the photometrics show a good cutoff, and I appreciate that very much, I think that the trees along Port Lamar Drive should be heavily of a tall and heavy nature, further minimize the bounce of light and so forth into the residential, even though there are apartments and motel rooms and so forth across Port Lamar. I think that row of trees should be substantial to help soften some of the light along there. I think that, as I indicated in my questions, the structure right at the point entry into the playground at Niños and La Palomar it seems to be crowding the space there, and whether you walk, perhaps maybe you walk under it, but it seems like it's crowding, and there should be, considering the number of people that would enter there and so forth, seems like there should be a more ground space, uncluttered ground space there. Well, I think it's a very exciting and nice project, and I think it's a wonderful addition to the community and so forth. Yeah, my last question, it just seems from the images that the toadstools and the magic tree are wonderful ideas. I'm hoping that they will be, they look in the images anyway, a bit plastic and fiberglassy. I love the images that you show of the butterflies. They're really nice pieces of art in those images. I'm hoping that the toadstools, the trees, anything else that's high and above ground plane will be done in a very artistic manner and be a visual joy to adults as well as kids. So I think this is a wonderful project, and we look forward to seeing it in its as it progresses and it's in completion. Thank you. That's my comments.
Okay, thank you, Richard. I agree. I think the playground is incredible. I think it's going to be an amazing space for kids, and really
You're cutting.
Really hope it comes to fruition as depicted here. Oh, can you hear me? Better?
Mr. Chair, you keep cutting in and out a little bit.
Oh, yes.
It seems like we have you right now.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I find myself spending a lot of time at soccer fields lately due to my son's interest in soccer. So the typical configuration, this is just for Richard's benefit, is the parents set up their own chairs along the sidelines, and I don't know that I've ever visited a city soccer field or other location where bleachers were provided. I think it allows for more flexibility for configurations, and oftentimes there's just not that many people that bleachers would be required. But it would be nice to get a little bit more room behind or on the northern side of the field. So perhaps that fence line where the number 35 is, perhaps that could be studied. Maybe it bows northward somewhat to allow for a little bit more room and a little less linear walkway there, just to give a little bit more space. Anyway, that's my one thought. And I think the artificial turf, I think there was some pushback last time. I think it's appropriate in this case just because of the heavy use that the field's going to get and see. So I think the project is really going in the right direction with just a few tweaks. I think it's looking good. Anything to add, Richard?
No. Do we need to make a formal motion with just two of us?
I believe we do.
Yes, Mr. Chair, you do.
Okay. Do you want to do it or do you want me to do it?
Well, let's ask for a little clarification. Matthew, what is the next step for them? Are they looking for a continuance to a particular place or to come back?
Yeah, so they would be, sorry, it's wrestling with the cat. They would be going to the planning commission next. So they'll need to submit for their DART development application review team application that would send them to the planning commission. So they're looking for positive comments. If today you could preliminarily make the project compatibility analysis criteria findings, just so that the planning commission understands why you find it acceptable.
Okay.
Okay, so Kevin, I'll entertain a motion to have indefinite continuation to the planning commission with the following comments: that the board finds the project very exciting and a great gift and contribution to the community, and the design is very exceptional. There are a few minor items such as a concern for the amount of ground set aside for spectators on the north side of the soccer field, with the suggestion to study bowing out or moving the fence back in other than the linear direction it is. That the board suggests more dense, not more, but dense and tall trees along the southern border of the soccer field to soften the bounce lighting to the residential units on the south side of Port Lamar. And third, look forward to seeing the refinement of the design of the playground structures in not natural, but artfully done materials and design. I don't think we had any, I don't think any, Kevin, I don't think any of our circulation things were of issue. Vehicular around, I think. Do you want to add that the should study filling the sawtooth, finding opportunities for planting in a sawtooth fashion along the angled parking along Ninos?
I think that'd be ideal, but seeing that they're planting
Yeah,
a
I think it's-
substantial number of trees, I think it's, you know,
yeah,
not
I think,
necessary.
yeah, I think it's enough. So that, that in concept, the project appears to meet in a preliminary fashion the project compatibility criteria, number one, without any indication from staff. The board can state that it meets the city charter and municipal codes, that the project's design is consistent with the design guidelines applicable to the location of the project within the city. Number two, the project is compatible with the character of the city and the neighborhood. Number three, it is of appropriate mass, bulk, height, and scale, given that it's mostly open play park, and the playground structures are not of a significant size to be of concern. Number four, there is no adverse effects to any adjacent landmarks and historic resources that might be nearby. Number five, there are no imposition on the public views of the oceans and mountains. And it is very appropriate and excels in its use of open space and landscaping.
Okay, great. I will second that motion. And I don't have any more discussion on my end. How about you, Richard? Are you happy?
Nope, I'm happy.
Okay, so we will call our vote.
All right, this is Mary. I will take the roll call vote. We have Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Black,
I have to abstain.
Board Member Olson,
Abstain.
oh, thank you. And Board Member Whalen,
I also abstain.
and Board Member Cunningham and Watkins are absent.
Okay. So motion carries. Thank you very much. Going to
Great.
move on. Yeah, move on to item number 2. And how are we doing time-wise? We 4 o'clock? We are close-ish. Okay. So item number 2, which is 103 South Cairo, Cesar Chavez.
All right, Mr. Chair, there we go. Perfect. And Suzanne, if you have anyone else who's joining you today, just let us know and we'll get them on.
Estoyo drain on the site has been completed. The project requires a waiver for alternative parking lot landscaping design. And slide number 2, please. No final appealable decision will be made at this hearing. Project is requesting review after final for a change of scope of work, as I described, and the project requires compliance with project compatibility analysis, the urban design guidelines. It was last year, June 15th. Okay, welcome back. And
Mr. Chair,
Sorry.
I apologize really quickly. I'm noticing on the slides, it says review after final approval, but the agenda was corrected to say project design approval. So the project is here for project design approval at this time.
yes, I see that on the agenda. Okay, so I will turn it over to the applicant and remind the team that there's a 15-minute timer to be started, and that should be displayed on the, there we go. So if we can try and limit your presentation to 15 minutes, then we can get into any.
Go
And
ahead.
Mr. Chair, we're still
Questions
struggling
after
with
that,
your audio. You keep cutting in and out, and I'm still thinking that there's an internet connectivity issue. So it may be easiest to turn your webcam off momentarily, and just, again, either switch audio to phone so that it's not going through your computer. And you can do that by going on your GoToWebinar control panel, and it's probably currently listed as computer audio, but if you go to phone call, it will show you all of the phone numbers that you would need to call and PIN numbers that you'd enter to get audio. All right, sorry about that.
Go ahead,
Mr.
Susan.
Cottage, could you test your audio, please?
Yes, I'm here. Are you ready for me to begin? Okay, great. Thank you very much.
I think that's the case.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and board members. Since we were last before you on June 15th, we did have this project approved under a substantial conformance determination. So we are ready to proceed through to final approval. Now that that action has been taken, we're here before you today with response to the comments that you made on June 15th. And we did inadvertently leave out the lighting plan sheet. So we're going to go ahead and present that to you today as best we can, but that will be included next time. And we also, the carports will be a design build item. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. And we're going to go ahead and start the presentation now. Kirk Ellis is here with Gensler and Patrick Baldwin from Burton Design Studio. Patrick Baldwin and Burton are new to you on this particular part of the project. It was previously represented by Arcadia, but Burton Studio is proceeding with the construction documents. So I wanted you to be aware of that too. And I'll turn it over to Kirk, who's now, I can see him.
Good,
Hi,
I
Kirk.
am here. Hi there.
Thank you.
Good. So good afternoon, board members. Good to be with you again. As the city had just prompted with the notes, we have a couple of very specific things to show you today. And if you could go actually to page 3, please, then you've already reviewed the package, but I want to be quick so that Patrick from Burton can talk through specifically. The couple of challenges or requests you had for us previously were things that were really good comments. We were able to intake all of them. We were able to make adjustments, and we have revised our plan according to your comments. Number one, the most important was to change the driveway throat to have the same lane width, but have an increased planter bed width as well. We've shifted over our drive lane a little bit, trimmed a couple of edges here and there. It still works for vehicles, no problem. But we have gained an extra foot of landscaping on the western side of that inbound drive lane. So we basically get better landscaping coverage to the first parking stalls that are there. 3 carport designs remain exactly the same as you had seen before and previously had no issues with that. The second item you had asked for us to look at was to include, which was a smart idea, to add a valet footpath coming back on site, knowing that we have valets running back and forth from north to south. It is now currently located just north of the switchgear transformer that's on that east edge facing onto Cairo, Cesar, Chavez. Patrick will show that to you in an illustrative landscape plan. And then third, as Suzanne just said, the lighting. Unfortunately, the lighting design sheet did not get into the set in time, but I can tell you, it is a 39-inch tall bollard. They are, right now they're specified to be Bega bollards. It'll have a lighting radius of just about 40 feet diameter. These bollards are located every 5th parking stall along the south edge and along our sawtooth edge to the northwest. It's going to give us good perimeter lighting in that area. So of those 3 major things, you could actually go to the next slide, please. Page 4. Yeah, again, this remains the same. Go to page 5, please. And as you'd seen before, the sight lines in that all stays exactly the same. We're back up against those big windowless buildings. The biggest thing was changing that drive lane coming in. You can go forward now, please, to the next page. And so again, Burton Landscape Design Studio, San Diego, they're working with us on the south parcel as well. We worked on many projects together. They're finishing the construction drawings. This is their drawing. I'll let Patrick talk that through. But again, you'll note that that driveways will really focus our attention getting a proper landscape screening so that sightlines in are restricted as you had requested. So Patrick, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. This is Patrick Baldwin with Burton Landscape Architecture, as Suzanne and Kirk introduced us. I apologize, I do not have a webcam. We just moved back into our office, and I realized my computer doesn't have it right now. So, but I will roll right into it. Kirk hit some of the main comments. I'm going to touch on the changes, the updates to the plan, and then I can take you through a quick overview on the landscape. We've basically taken Arcadia's concept plan, and we were asked to just develop that into a construction and installation plan, which we've done using the very spirit of their plant material throughout. On the changes, updates to the plans, you can see on the right-hand side off of the street frontage, we have a 4-foot 6-inch concrete walk. Thank you, if you can zoom in. About midway down the screen above the utility pad, just above the cursor. There to the right, exactly. Concrete with a light sandblast finish that will pick up on the concrete paving of the streetscape. The second update is to the entry drive, where we've, as Kirk mentioned, we widened the median that's closest to the first parking stalls, just right there. Yes, right where the cursor is. We have a 2'6" planter zone, and then we maintain the planted intermedian between the two curbs on the entry drive. So we have 2 layers of planting. And the planting on the left-hand side there will be a little bit more robust, about a 4 to 5 foot hedge of callistemon bottle brush plant that was one of Arcadia's plant species as well. And then I think in addition, not necessarily a comment, was that you're seeing here right where the cursor is right now is some addition of swing arm gates for exits and entries in. There'll be a call box right about there for the entry. That will be activated by the valet and people using the lot itself, and then then the entry gate is obviously to the other side, which will have below ground signals that will open the gate as the cars exit. Those were really the updates to the concept plan that we incorporated. And I think I'll just touch quickly on some of the key planting moves, especially the ones that were illustrated by notes on the previous concept plan. The first being that 8 to 10 foot screening material to the north side. So we've kept, we looked at Arcadia's plant palette and we picked out some of their taller plant material, which will achieve that. We're going to use 2 different plants. One is a Prunus caroliana, which they had Arcadia again had Prunus species as in their mix. We're choosing that specific reason as we know we can get probably a 6 to 7 foot plant day one, and there's plenty on the market right now and in the future. And then we're backing that up with another plant, the Heteromeles Italian, and that's in kind of the more open spaces, the sawtooth sections. And that again will get a good size day one. It grows fast. It'll achieve that screening, but it also as it gets a little bit more mature, it's a little bit leggy on the bottom, which is good because there's a ditch behind there against the next property. And we just thought that from a safety concern, just having a little more visibility into that, but at the same time, achieving that screen against the buildings there at the same time. So again, just kind of mixing that where the site fits along that wall. The other piece is the 4 to 5 foot screening along El Estoyo restoration area right there. Again, we're kind of doing a 2 plant mix to achieve that. One is the Ramenis california, which is a native California plant, which will grow into 5 to 6 feet tall. But then we're backing it up with the Mullenbergia deer grass, which again kind of speaks to that restoration area where it'll be filled with a few different species of grasses. So it's both functional and also a nod to the adjacent kind of look of that area. Then again, along the street frontage, again, looking to the same conceptual plant list, but also bringing in a little bit of flavor from the hotel, only because our hotel landscape is just right down the road, obviously. And we want to, the 2 properties want to speak to each other. So we're doing that with a rosemary border along the sidewalk, and then behind that, infilling with a few different species, again from Arcadia's list, Westringia, and then the Callistemon Little Johns that I mentioned that's going to go in that new wider median piece. And then as you get closer to the entry, adding in more succulent material, aloes, agaves with a little more detail. Again, all in plants and succulents around Arcadia's list. Tree species, I'll hit it really quickly. Very similar to the tree species we had before. On the northwest corner, we have a grove of Quercus agrifolia, Coast Olive Oaks, which will be a nice evergreen corner, again, helping take that building out. Along the more riparian area, we're going to the California sycamore, which has a more riparian water feel to it. That's what you see aligning Del Estero. Along the street frontage, we're adding olives. And again, that's a nod back to the hotel property where we're doing olives around the entry. At the main entry, where I mentioned the succulents before, I believe the previous plant list had queen palms, which you think is great. We're suggesting pindle palms. A couple of reasons. Again, it's a nod to the hotel, but also they exist in the median right now and all along Cabrillo as well. So we thought it, again, this ties back to the hotel, but it kind of speaks to the existing landscape. And it's very similar in form to the queen palms. And then the final sort of element of the plant materials are the trees that you see in light green adjacent to solar panels. Those are Laurus nobilis. They'll stay a little bit lower and they're easy to maintain with respect to the solar panels there. Again, it was one of the trees being considered in Arcadia's concept list as well, but they're just specifically chosen for their ability to maintain a little bit lower form at that location to work with the solar panels better. And those are really the highlights. This presentation, if we slide forward 2 slides, this is just our plant list of all those trees and plants I just mentioned. And then as you go further into the package in the next few pages, I don't need to go through all of them, but we move more into our construction drawings where we've keyed up materials. Go to the next slide. We have a gate arm spec that's all been coordinated into irrigation drawings. Next slide. And then our planting, our more detailed planting legend. Next slide. Shrub planting plan. We divide the shrub planting into from the tree planting, just production wise here. This is our ground plane plan again of the shrub materials I just went through. And next slide, please. And then finally, this is our tree planting plan. So those are really the landscape highlights and changes that we've incorporated.
We have 3 minutes to spare. That concludes our presentation, Chair Moore.
Chair Moore. Here.
Matthew,
Yes.
as vice chair, I think that's a responsibility with the demise of the chair. I think the vice chair would take over.
Yes, Mr. Six. And I think moving forward, if we do drop Mr. Chair Moore, then we will defer to your excellent chairing skills.
And with the end of the applicant's presentation, we'll open the meeting to public comment. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this item?
So if you are joining us from as a member of the public wishing to speak, up in the right-hand corner, you'll find a hand icon. If it has a green arrow, it means your hand is down. If you have a red arrow, it means your hand is up. Red means raised. So if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. I will unmute you for 2 minutes. I am not seeing anyone. Yeah, I'm not seeing anyone. Chair Moore says that he's called in, but he is self-muted right now. So I don't know if he can fix that somehow. Still kind of seeing public. No one's raised their hand and we have not received any written public comment.
All right, that being the case, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for questions. If the board members would turn on their videos. So there we go. So I'll just go down left to right. Leon, do you have any questions?
I have no questions.
All right, Dennis?
No questions.
David?
None for me either, thank you.
Okay, I have a couple questions.
Pardon my interruption, Mr. Six. This is Ellen Kokenda. I'm just going to ask Mr. Chair. I think if Mr. Chair could just turn on his webcam. I think you're just self-muted right now, Mr. Chair. If you can just click your microphone button and test your audio.
How's that?
That's perfect. Yeah,
Oh,
we can hear you. I think that's going to be a better connection for the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
I didn't mean to usurp you, Kevin.
No. Please continue. I'll sit back.
So I think we're back and I had some questions of the applicant. Number one, I'm all in favor of very low lighting, but are these 39-inch bollards going to provide light when all of the cars are parked in front of them?
Yes, sir, Mr. Six. This is Kirk again. For us, it's a balance between keeping it low because this is, of course, a secured lot. It's going to be privately operated. It's valets only. The valets will know where they're going. They're professionals. They'll have insurance, etc. Our concern is if we push the lights up too tall, we're going to get light glare coming out. We're going to get light pollution. That drive along Cesar Chavez heading towards Cabrillo. I want people to focus on the hotel, not focus on any lights that are coming out. So that was definitely an intentional decision.
Great. And I know that it was very important. I just want to get assured from either our landscape people or your landscape people that not the trees, but the ground planting along the frontage is high enough and dense enough to cut off the visual from a pedestrian or a car level passenger.
Sure, I'd suggest that Patrick would be the best person to answer that very directly. Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, no, I think we're doing quite well there. Detail-wise, we have a little bit of maybe a 2 to 3 foot planting hedge along the sidewalk, but then behind that we go to a mixture of probably 5 to 6 foot material growing in maturity that will screen at the car level and pedestrian level really into that parking field. And then beyond that, we have those olive trees, which are that sort of olive green color there, which will have a canopy that's maybe 8 to 9 feet off the ground, would catch any other views from a higher level.
So at maturity, the screening shrubs will be at least 6 foot high and very dense.
At least.
Okay, thank you. That's my questions, Chair Moore.
Okay. Well, let's move on to comments. And who'd like to go first? David, do you want to go first?
Sure. I think what's been proposed landscape-wise is acceptable. I mean, I went through and looked at all the plant species and their locations, and I think they'll do the job. One question I wanted to ask, though, is there a perimeter fence around this property, a security fence? Question.
Yes, sorry, I was coming back on with my video there. On the northwest edge where we have a drainage swale, there is not a fence back there. Along the Cesar Chavez side on the east side, there is not a fence there. There is on the south edge down there, there is a fence that's included in in this plan you're looking, it's on the north side, plan north side of that planter bed that's there, which is up against the permeable pavers, which is the end of the parking field.
And what does that fence look like?
That is chain link.
Black? I assume.
I don't know if we've identified the color yet, but black sounds like it could be a good color, be nondescript and easy to kind of hide. Sure.
Mr.
You know,
Chair,
it might be nice if it was more of a tubular steel fence rather than chain link. I think just given the quality of your hotel project, I think chain link seems a little industrial for my taste, but that's something you could consider. Those are my only
Mr.
comments.
Chair and Board
The
Member
applicant
Black,
team would like to go ahead.
I believe that's an existing chain link fence that was required at the time that we put the habitat restoration plan in. Isn't that correct, Kirk?
Yeah, it's from a previous condition of approval. It's not a new element that was already there as we've picked up the design process going forward.
Thank you.
Great.
Wanted to clarify.
No other
Anything
comments.
else? David? Okay. Richard, comment?
I find the plan acceptable and doing and performing to what we previously had concerns about.
Okay. Does anyone else have any differing comments? Anything to add? Leon or Dennis?
I do not.
Anything to add? Great. Okay, I feel the same. I think they've addressed the comments that we made. I think they've hidden the cars away as much as possible. And I think we can move them forward. Now, are they agendized for just preliminary, or is this possible to give them a complete review, Matthew, at this point?
Mr. Chair, at this time, they are only agendized for project design approval, not final approval. You can return it on consent, or that would, if you feel like that is acceptable.
Okay, well, I'll make that motion that for project design approval to the applicant to return on the consent calendar. Is that, I don't know, David offhand, just was the landscape plan developed enough level to be confident that can be a final item next time?
Yes, I mean, it's complete. It's complete now from what I can see.
Yeah, it appeared to be. So I would say that unless the applicant cannot return in 2 weeks for the agenda, is that
We
possible?
can.
Great. Okay.
Thank you.
So then a 2-week continuance to the consent calendar to return for final approval of landscape plan and other details.
Mr. Chair, I just want to check in with the applicant. We are able to get them on for next Monday, which would be a week continuance. Would that work for the applicant as well?
Yes, thank you. We're prepared to get that now. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Matthew, would they need to resubmit drawings, or are these acceptable?
It sounds like these are acceptable. These are acceptable to the board, so that means that they're acceptable for us. They have been reviewed by the planner as well. So yes, I think it was just.
Are we short on the electrical plan, lighting plan?
Yes, and we can submit that tomorrow.
Yeah, please include the lighting plan, and so it's a 1-week continuance to the consent calendar for hopefully final approval at that time.
Thank you very much.
Seconder.
I'll second that.
It's seconded by Richard. Any discussion? No? Okay, let's have our vote.
All right.
I'm so sorry. Did we rate the project compatibility criteria?
No, we did not. Okay, so let's add to the motion that the board believes the project is in compliance with the project compatibility analysis as it complies with all applicable city charter and municipal code requirements, and the design is consistent with the design guidelines. It is, number two, it's also compatible with the architectural character of the city and neighborhood, as the actual built elements are very minor and the project consists mostly of landscaping and hardscape. Number three, the project has appropriate size, bulk, mass, height, and scale. Just as reasons for number two, there's very little built structure. Number four, we believe it's sensitive to adjacent landmarks and any historic resources, if there are any. Number five, there's no change to any public views of the mountains or oceans. And number six, use of open space and landscaping. It does provide an appropriate amount of landscaping for this site. Okay, Richard, will you accept that?
I'll include that as read.
Great. Excellent. Okay, so now we can do our vote.
All right, thank you. This is Mary. I will take the vote. Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Olson,
Yes.
and Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And we will move on to item number 3, which is 2407 Bath Street. This is a pre-application review. This is a one-time pre-application consultation for a proposal for a new pediatric medical office. The project entails the demolition of all existing structures on site and construction of a 2-story, approximately 28,850 net square foot building with 2-level subterranean parking garage. The project proposes to merge the 2403 Bath Street, 2407 Bath Street, 310 East Junipero Street, and 314 East Junipero Street properties. 3 oak trees are proposed to remain. This project has not been reviewed for compliance with all relevant city development standards. So this is comments only. And does staff have anything to add, or are we just gonna go right into the applicant's presentation?
Mr. Chair, we do have Tony Bauman, who is the planner for this project here. I don't know if he was planning on saying anything beforehand, but if he could just click on and introduce himself, that would be greatly appreciated.
Oh, good afternoon, Chair Moore and ABR members. I was just here to listen in, but I don't really have any, I wasn't planning on needing to make any staff comments, although we've done a pre-application review team of the application, and it's fairly close to meeting the applicable design standards. It looks supportable by staff. One area of comment we would appreciate from the ABR today is just a general opinion that the size of the building is appropriate. The project will be a community benefit, and it'll go to the city council for that designation to be allocated the new non-residential floor area. So the applicant requested and staff agreed that it would be a good idea to check in with the ABR to make sure when it goes to council for an allocation of floor area that they're requesting an amount that the ABR is generally okay with. I think that's all I have. I'll be here if any questions arise if you need me.
Great, thank you. All right, so Brian, as you know, we have a new timer. So we're hoping you can do this in 15 minutes. And
I will do my best. Thank you, Chair.
Right, appreciate it. Take it away.
Okay. So, and thank you, Timmy. I know that we have some, we submitted some supplemental information and we'll hopefully be able to see that. As was mentioned, it's 28,000 square foot new pediatric medical center for Cottage Hospital. Very excited about this project. It's been an important goal of the Cottage Health Systems for some time to consolidate their pediatric services in this location. You can see the site plan. It's a little small below that shows the existing structures. One of the first things that we did on this for this project was to bring a historian in to assess the buildings and determine if we had any historic resource issues, which we do not. The project did, or that her report went to HLC a month or so ago, and that was all accepted. There is a very significant oak tree that you can see, that sort of black spot. It's a little hard in this drawing to see the canopy right there. Thank you, Timmy. And we've got another beautiful oak that's along Bath Street. I'm sorry I didn't orient you, but Bath Street is there on the right, and then below us is Junipero. So this is right across the street from the energy center for the hospital. And actually, this is probably good to go to the next slide. So this is some good vantage points. You can see the site. Let's start with the upper left-hand corner. You can see the site there with the individual one-story buildings next to the energy center. It's right across the street from the historic Knapp nursing hospital, which is now offices for Cottage and other services. And then beyond that, you can actually see the Knapp parking structure. And so that is located nearby. Let's go to the slide that's on the right. Just another aerial vantage point. So this is kind of looking west. You can see the outpatient surgery center that's just a half a block away from this. Let's go to the slide below. So this is a vantage point looking east. You can see portions of the older portion of Cottage Hospital there behind the energy center. And of course, there's the Pueblo Commons that is just across the street from it on Bath Street. And then the final image we've got on this sheet, there you can see more of the new hospital along with the older hospital that's in the process of being seismically upgraded right now. So this gives you a sense of the size of the buildings. That energy center, by the way, and the new hospital are right up to the 60-foot height limit. Next sheet, please. So just some quick photographs from eye level of the buildings that exist on the site. I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on this. Next slide. Actually, let's go on instead of this slide. Let's go to the next slide, Timmy, if that's okay. This is showing the building over the existing buildings, but this is the site plan. So you can see that slot that is in the middle of the building. Again, Bath is on your right, Junipero is on the lower portion. What we are building here is a two-level underground parking structure in order to keep the scale of this building to a two-story building that we believe is really essential to be compatible with the Knapp building across the street. So we enter into that parking structure in the middle off that public alleyway and go down, and you'll see in sections in a moment what that looks like. Here you can see better that large oak that is on the northern portion of the site that straddles the property line a little bit. So the whole entire building and the parking structure have been held back to respect the critical root zone of that tree, and then likewise that oak tree that is on Bath Street. Building conforms with the setbacks all the way around. And this is basically the first floor plate, and the second floor plate pretty much replicates it. Let's go to that slide, next slide, or next sheet. Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is the parking structure, so that's fine. So you can see what our parking layout looks like in concept. And again, it goes down 2 levels. Next slide. So that's the second level. And then the next slide. Actually, this is the first floor plan, which is similar to the site plan. So let's go to the next sheet. So you can see we step a portion of the building back on the north side in to respect the 1-story building that is there to the north. Next slide. Roof plan, planned solar panels. Next slide. So I'm not sure whether this is the updated elevations or not. They look to be, there we go. Thank you, Timmy. So this is with the landscaping. You can get a sense of the building. We are planting a new tree, which I'll let, I believe Martha DeGasis is on the line to talk about the landscape plan. If not, I'll struggle with what that tree is there in the corner. But that corner, which has a really nice little bulb out, it's going to be a very important component of the project, is this new planting. And of course, you can get a sense of what our new planting is. So this is the main entrance along Bath Street that you're looking at, the east elevation. You can see how the building is stepped back from that northern property boundary. Thank you. We want this building to be very simple, very rational, to serve the needs of basically what are medical offices, exam rooms, et cetera, for this pediatric function. Let's go to the lower elevation, which is the west elevation, is the elevation along the alley. So there you see that gap between the massing is the entrance to the parking structure. We also are facilitating a simple little loading area. So that is on the right-hand side. That door is going to be for loading into the building. And then the trash enclosure is tucked into the corner on the left. Next slide. So this is the Junipero elevation. Again, just very simple and rational with the banding of the first floor, and just a slight variation in the windows between the first floor and the second floor to, give again, really to respect that Knapp building across the street and create kind of a classical, simple architecture. And then the final elevation is on the north, which really won't ever be seen. You can get a sense of the outline of that huge oak tree, and then how we stepped that building back with just the small 1-story portion. Next slides. These are the views of the building. So the first view is basically looking across Bath at what will be the main entrance to the building. Of course, people using this building and coming by car will be coming up the elevator, which is right there at that lobby element. Then the view below is more from the corner of how the building will present itself. And you get a sense here of the large tree that's being planted on the corner and the one oak that is on Bath. Next sheet. Okay, I thought we had some other views that were in there, but that's okay. So that section sheet is a good one to go to because it shows where you just were, Timmy. Keep going. Keep going. There you go. So here you can see this section of the building, basically where that two levels of parking is under the ground. Let's keep going. Next slide. One of the things that's nice about this access way to the parking structure is it's really allowing us to have a lot of good natural light into all of the exam room spaces. So we have a really good section for the building that will facilitate that. Next slide. So here are those two views we just looked at. Let's see what the next slide shows us. Here's the other views. So again, the top view is at that corner, looking back towards the building, and the simple facade that runs along Junipero. Then this is looking back up the alley, sort of looking in almost a due north orientation. And you can see there just barely the entrance to the parking structure. Next slide. And then finally, looking back east down the alley, you can see where that trash enclosure is, the large oak tree that we've set back from. And then we have the landscape plan. I haven't left Martha a lot of time, but Martha, you can tell me what that tree on the corner is.
The tree on the corner, this is our one area where we have in-ground planting. Much of the rest of the site is a podium level planting. So the tree on the corner that we have is an albizia tree, which is, you can see at the top corner of the photographs on the top left is sort of a pink blooming tree, very filmy, much like a jacaranda, doesn't have as long a bloom period, but so that'll be a nice anchor for that corner. There's also one up the street on Bath Street, so we're reflecting that. Along Junipero Street, on Bath Street, you can see we're adding 3 Coast Live oak trees to complement the tree that is existing there. And then along Junipero Street, you can see we're adding the 3 jacaranda trees. And as I mentioned, the rest of the planting is on podium level or in raised planters. So we've got trees that don't have aggressive rooting systems there. We've got some Schefflera or Queensland umbrella trees there, and some accent palms such as Trachycarpus or windmill palms that you can see in the lower right-hand corner of the tree section there. And then the planting is a variety of plants that have foliage accents and some color that will work well in this podium level. So we've got some cycads and bird of paradise and succulents, kangaroo paw shrubs and so on to give some color and active sense of the landscape on the street frontage there and give it a lot of pedestrian interest at the entries and along the sidewalk.
And then all those planters would be clad in sandstone.
So that, I think that gives us enough of an overview of the landscape. Thank you very much.
Okay, that concludes our presentation.
Excellent. Good timing. Appreciate that. Okay, so we will open for public comment. Matthew, do we see anybody out there?
All right, so if you are a member of the public and you are here to speak on this item, there will be a hand icon at the top of your screen. Green means it's down, red means it's up, red means raised. So if you would like to speak on this item, click on that icon and we will provide you with 2 minutes to speak. I am not seeing anybody. We do not have very many people in the audience at this time. So I haven't received any written correspondence on this item at this time. So I will turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we will close public comment and move on to questions from the board. Let's see. Leon, you popped up first. Do you have any questions?
Yes. What is the material of the banding? I think you called it the banding. What, I can't tell from the drawing.
It would just be a reveal. It would be a plane that would be proud of the upper two-story section. So we would just build that out. There will be some, very simple little detail that makes that transition, but essentially it just creates that plane that is proud of the second floor above.
So in the picture, it shows that it has some texture to it. What gives it that texture?
I don't think there's any intention to have texture. It may just be the drawing technique. It will be some simple little rolled edge probably that defines that transition between the two planes. Almost, not really an OG shape, but something, simple and subtle like that. So it's really just, again, to create a strong base to the building.
That's my only question.
Okay, thank you. Dennis, question?
Yes, wasn't there a section through the building that showed the parking ramp?
Yes.
Could you go to that, please?
Yeah, that should be on sheet, let's see, Timmy, A202. Yeah, there you go.
So my question. Yes, my question is, does the wall surface comes all the way down to the ramp, correct?
Correct. There will be a curb transition between the wall and the ramp, but yes.
Sure. All right. Thank you. That's my only question.
Okay, David, questions?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, Richard, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. Brian, what classical question is, what do you anticipate as your recess of your windows from the face of the exterior walls?
Well, the recess at that large opening that is the pedestrian entrance, I think we have that at about 18 inches or somewhere between 18 inches and 2 feet. The windows, the lower windows will be recessed a slightly larger amount than the second floor windows because of that base that we were just talking about. I would anticipate that, at a minimum, we will have a full 4 inches of plaster reveal, hopefully a little more at the upper second floor windows and probably 7 inches or so at those lower windows.
So the first floor wall surface will stand 3 inches or plus or minus away from the second floor, correct?
Yeah, we haven't.
Just going back.
Yeah, I think we've got it now at about 2.5 inches, something like that.
Okay, thank you. And you can stay on this elevation. It'll lead into my comment. It seems is your entry off of Bath Street a 2-story volume, and it appears like it appears here that the front door is significantly away from the stairs. The depth of the tower, if you will, is that determined by other constraints? You understand what I'm saying? Maybe we need to go to a floor plan.
Yeah. Or yeah, we could probably go to the floor plan or that Bath Street elevation. So go back to A100. And actually, maybe the next sheet, the second floor plan would show it. I'm not seeing it here, but there is. Yeah, there. So there you see the opening. So the elevators, stairs are all right there at the entrance, and then there is that portion that is open, which facilitates that 2 stories of glass, and obviously then just the passageway between the 2 wings.
Great, thanks. That gives me a good picture.
And there you can see the thickness of those openings too.
Yes. My last question, Brian, is what is your air conditioning systems and how you accommodate them? Are they on the roof or the central plant?
They will be package units that are on the roof. And then the other thing I didn't mention is the exhaust system from the garage that you can see we have a couple of strategically located chimneys, which is where that exhaust will occur, which show up on our west elevation.
So I imagine you have planned for enough depth in your roof wells to adequately screen this rooftop equipment.
Let's go to the roof plan, Timmy, which should be the next sheet. There you go. And yeah, I believe right now we have got a 4-foot parapet that is around that well. Yeah, we've got 4 feet.
Okay. Very good. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay. Can we just do one more spin through the elevation sheets, please? So east elevation, which street is it?
So that's the Bath Street. So that's directly opposite the Knapp building.
Okay. And then west is?
West is the alley elevation, the one below it.
Okay. All right. We'll flip to the next sheet.
And then the upper one is Junipero Street. So that's directly across the street from the Energy Center.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, the north elevation where the oak tree is.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions from the board? Nope. Okay, let's move into comments then. If we could have all the board members up on the screen. Okay. So remember, this is the first look at this, so they're asking for comments only. So I think rather than us getting down into detailed items, we should really focus on mass, bulk, and scale and appropriateness for the neighborhood and the condition around it. Okay, so Leon, would you like to start with comments?
Yes, I only have one, and that's a positive one. It seems to me to be appropriate to the neighborhood. And I think I appreciate the fact that he has 2 floors of underground parking. I think that helps considerably. And that's my only comment.
Okay, thank you. Dennis, do you want to go next?
Sure, thank you. I appreciate this design and its ability to reflect those values of Santa Barbara architecture. I think it does that very, very well. It seems to mitigate the scale of the adjacent buildings very well too, stepping down from the Energy Center and into the residential neighborhood and the historic, if you will, building across Bath Street, where I think there are 2 areas that I would like to see further study on. One is on the so-called alleyway, where we have this beautifully rendered piece of Santa Barbara mythology, and it kind of breaks down when one passes by the driveway entry. And perhaps this could be mitigated by framing it or just reducing this big visual impact of the ramp down. And the other comment relates to the opposite side, that major entryway, somehow that large glazed two-story opening does seem to work against the Santa Barbara character. And I would like to see that shape and scale and size studied a bit further to reflect a more Santa Barbara character. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. David, any comments?
Well, I think it's a very handsome building. I think it will be a nice addition to that, you know, the hospital zone, if you will. And I think the landscape will do nothing more than, I mean, it would be a nice complement to the building as well. That's all.
Okay, Richard, comments?
Yeah, it's a very handsome building. I think that mass bulk and scale, given the context of the neighborhood, the nature and use of the buildings around it, I think that we can clearly support the mass bulk and scale to the Planning Commission, or I think the City Council in this matter. I think that Brian has done, or Cornell Collaborative is continuing their excellence in using less as more. And I think the simplicity of this building works very well. I think that Dennis touched upon it. There's something about the girth and the depth and the positioning of the tower in between, which I think has missed an opportunity to be, you know, it's more a part of the building than it could be more different, either in its materials or its proportion. It's an opportunity to separate the two masses. And I don't think that that's fully appreciated now. I know that it's the simplicity of the plan is wonderful, but if there's any way to articulate this and narrow it and make it narrower or different, I think that it would enhance the separation between and instead of one mass of similar proportions and materials or materials, it could be a feature that separates the two masses on either side, flanking it. Those are my comments.
I have one more comment.
And I really appreciate the extensive effort to provide a two-level garage to make this work and fit into the neighborhood.
Okay, Leon?
Yes, I'd like to add something that, and I support what Commissioner Whalen said about the two-story glazed entry. I would like to be an alternative to that also.
Okay, great. I agree with pretty much everything Richard had to say. I think the applicant has done a very good job of manipulating the building to provide a lot of landscaping out on the majority, against the majority of the building, and the parking underneath the building is greatly appreciated. So I will leave it at that. Matthew, do we need a motion or a list of comments? Is that acceptable?
Mr. Chair, Mary Chernoskaya has been taking notes of all of your individual comments, and that will suffice for today. I did also want to say for the previous item, 10-day appeal period should have been announced, but just wanted to get that in there. But yeah, okay. So we should be good.
Okay.
Thank you
to the applicant. Yeah. All right.
Appreciate it.
All right. And we will move on now to our last item, item number 4.
Mr. Chair, I did want to make a quick announcement before this item. The agenda has the wrong owner on it. Abel Bedagon and Jose Bedagon are the owners. They're here. I am right now making the applicants panelists so that they can click on. But I just wanted to state that for them.
Can we do a 2-minute break? Just a quick stretch.
Sure, that's up to you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, let's do that. Okay, Matthew, I think we're ready to get going again.
All right, so we have Carl Kraus and Ellen Buildston. I believe they are the two applicants for this item. I'm gonna unmute Ellen. Are you there, Ellen?
Yes, thank you.
All right, and then Carl is self-muted, and I'm gonna send him a webcam request. And then Ellen, it says you have your webcam on, but I'm not seeing you, so I'm not sure what that technical difficulty is, but we can hear you.
Okay. I don't know either. But if you can hear me, I guess we're doing all right.
Okay, so I'm going to introduce item number 4 now. This is 827 Orange Avenue for concept review. And this is a proposal for a new multi-unit residence using the AUD program. The project entails retaining the existing single-unit residence and constructing a new two-story, two-unit residence. The unit mix includes 3 two-bedroom units ranging in size from 772 to 1,033 square feet, an average size of 905 square feet. The density on this 5,625 square foot lot is 27 units per acre on a parcel with a general land use designation of medium high density residential, which allows for between 15 to 27 dwelling units per acre. 3 parking spaces are also proposed. No final repeatable decision will be made at this hearing. The project requires compliance with project compatibility analysis and the infill design guidelines and the urban design guidelines and the outdoor lighting design guidelines. Okay, welcome. If you can introduce yourselves.
Hi, this is Carl Cross, architect. I'm representing Buildston Architecture and Planning.
Hey, welcome. So
Hi.
You'll see on the screen that we have a timer set for 15 minutes. So we'd ask if you could limit your presentation to that. Be great. But go ahead.
Thank you. Timmy, if you could zoom in on the aerial view, that would be great.
And I think I got my webcam going as well.
Yes, we
Are
do.
you guys seeing me now? Okay. great.
Thank you so much. Awesome, thank you. So I just wanted to orientate you to the existing parcel. You can see it outlined in the hatch. One front and the existing building faces Orange Avenue, and the back of San Pascal is the current proposal for the other units. We are running concurrently with an enforcement issue, and that enforcement issue has been approved and is underway. And that basically is removing all those illegal structures in the back. So this is not the current updated aerial that you see. The backyard of this project is empty right now. So, but the existing historic neighborhood is interesting. Just working with Nicole Hernandez and kind of finding out more about the neighborhood. There's a lot of houses in and around the area that date back to the 1880s. And it used to be an old orange orchard, hence the name Orange Avenue. And there's still, as you walk around the neighborhood, a lot of orange trees still intact. So that's pretty great. So Timmy, if you could go to the photographs, can kind of orientate that as well. Thank you. So in the middle photograph is a photograph of the existing site from Orange Avenue, and the neighbors to the right is a 2-story apartment building. To the left is a single family structure. Next page, please. Again, this is a photograph of the existing residence. Next, please. Here's views of that just from oblique views from either side. Next, please. This is the view from San Pascal, and you can see the residence in the back there in the open yard, which is the proposed area for the new units. And you can see to the right of that, some of an existing structure, and to the left, another single-story house. Next, please. This is a photograph from the middle of the space looking at the existing residence. Next, please. Again, more shots of the existing residence in the scale. Next, please. This is a shot looking north to the property from across the street, and on the corner, you could see some of the neighborhood residences, and you could see the open lot and some of the other neighboring residences, and also the kind of views of the mountain views that we want to take advantage of. Next, please. This is also a neighborhood shot from across the street in the other direction, looking south. you could see an interesting commercial that's now a building that's now a garage for an existing residence on the corner by the bus stop. But this is kind of typical of the neighborhood, kind of low scaled gable roof structures with, in this case, wood siding. Next, please. These are just kind of some photographs of the historical context, used to being an old orchard, and a lot of the materiality going on in the neighborhood. So we spent some time walking around the neighborhood and really kind of reviewing the existing materials so that we could be compatible with size and scale of the residence. If we could go to the plans, please, on the site plan would be great. Number 1. So you could just, there you go. So here's the existing site. Unit A is the existing structure that we saw in the photographs on the right-hand side. The 2 new units are going to face San Pascal and front that, allowing for a courtyard space in between those 2 units. The first floor kind of forms an L and providing a space for the driveway and a carport for the 2 required parking spaces. Next page, please. This is the proposed first floor. You can see the L shape there with the 2 units. We wanted to give some individuality to both those units, although they're part of the same development. And some individuality that we are looking at is the entry sequence. If you are a unit or a resident in Unit B, you'd be entering off the sidewalk and going down the walkway and going past the parking and little entry space into your building, having a separate entry that way. And if you are living in Unit C, you'll be entering off the sidewalk into more of a courtyard off of the street of the front yard, and then through the gate and kind of off to the side front court, forecourt into the entry C there. We decided to put the more private spaces, the bedrooms, on the first floor and allow for the living spaces to take advantage of the views and the openness of the gabled structures on the second floor. Next plan, please. So although it started off as an L-shaped on the first floor, rotated Unit C on the top to kind of form more of a U-shape. And that allows for the openness between the 2 units, in this case, the exterior patio, and then below to the parking and courtyard space below. And then between Unit B and Unit A, you have another court and open yard space there between those units. So it allows to have each unit accessibility to the natural ventilation and lighting. What we've done with Unit B is to really kind of orientate the public space and the private open yard in the form of a balcony to really orientate their views towards the mountains and towards the north. And Unit C have their private open yard space and really kind of front the main street, San Pascal, and be allowed accessibility to the southern sun and the views of the mesa and kind of the ocean breezes that are kind of coming up that way. So they're kind of, although they're really close and similar, they're orientated differently to take advantage of those both of those views. And Unit C has an outdoor patio space in addition to their open yard space. And we're trying to look to get more access from Unit B onto that as well, but we're still kind of working with the heights of Unit B and see if we could attain that as well. Next page, please. This is the overall roof plan, and we are looking to use a metal roof, whether it's a regular seam or a standing seam, still to be determined, and trying to get use of the solar panels as well to provide power for this project. Next slide, please. Actually, could you go to the next page? Thank you. So if you look at item number 2 or drawing number 2, shows unit C, which is right on San Pascal. This is the elevation off San Pascal, and you'll see the 2-story space. The first floor is acting kind of as a base that we're looking at different materials, kind of a plaster or a cementitious fiberboard. And the second floor looking at a vertical wood to kind of get in tune with the neighborhood and some of the existing structures that we've seen. You see the carport there as kind of an entryway to the unit beyond. And then to the left, that gate is the other separate entry going into the other unit behind. If you go move to drawing 1, that would be great. Oh, I'm sorry, 3. So if you were entering the unit behind you, slip through the path, through the carport into an open yard space. And on your left is a section of the first floor unit and the living space above that. And then you enter your unit from this aspect from there. So this is the entry to unit B. And if you could go to the unit or drawing number 1, please, that would be great. So this kind of shows the drawing or the entry sequence for the unit C. If you were on the sidewalk, which is San Pascal to the right, you'd be coming into a little forecourt area with a little tree, and then through another gate and into another forecourt with an entry court, and then that's how you enter your building there. From this elevation, you can see the 2 different forms are similar. The grade does slightly go from high to low as you go from San Pascal to Orange Avenue, and just trying to take advantage of that by reducing the height of the structure in the middle to kind of mitigate the height as you're going down to the existing 1-story project. You can both see the balconies in unit C on the San Pascal side, kind of looking towards the south, and the other one looking towards the north. Next page, please. This is a section through the project with San Pascal to your left and Orange Avenue to the right. Again, showing the forms kind of dropping in height as you go towards left to right. You can see the entry off to the left and going underneath the carport and into another court. So you get this sequence of being in the open space in the public, and then in through more of a compressed space, and then back into an open space where the cars will be parking in the courtyard. You see above there with the patio as well on the second floor, and the 2 units. Again, the need to put the living space on the second floor, I think, takes advantages of the surrounding area and the views and the breezes and light as well. Ellen, did you have anything else you'd want to say?
I would just also add that, we think that this location and this configuration of lot really lends itself well to, developing some good workforce housing, modestly sized units that really work their way in a very organic way into the neighborhood that they are located in. The frontage at both ends off of San Pasquale and Orange Ave really allow for a very nice sort of peaceful open yard spaces that all 3 of these units can enjoy and make for a very nice sort of neighborhood experience on a modest scale.
That concludes our presentation.
Okay, thank you. And now we will open public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board regarding this matter?
All right, Mr. Chair. So if you are in the audience and you'd like to speak on this item, there is a raise hand button in the top right corner of the screen. If you click on it and it turns red, that means it's raised. If not, I'm not seeing anyone, and we only have 2 attendees. So I do not believe that we have any public comment, and I did not receive any written public comment.
Okay, great. Then we will close public comment and go to questions from the board. You have all the board members on the screen. Okay. Please start with Mr. Whalen.
Sure. Could you go back to a ground plane plan that shows the 2 units? My question is, I don't fully understand where the fences and gates are. Specifically, it looks like there's 1 gate from San Pasquale. And so could you show me where the fence runs around the property line and back to the building?
But I think if the in the front, there you go. There is the.
Yeah,
So
there's in the front yard setback is 1 area, and there's a gate coming in straight off of the sidewalk of San Pasquale into that initial zone. And then there's also this narrow side yard with a gate at each end that's also, being used by the resident of Unit C to approach their front door, which is the one facing up on the page where it says entry there at Unit C. Yeah, exactly.
That clarifies it. Thank you. And then as far as the balconies go on both units, they read as a sort of an attached box. Are they, so they're covered but unenclosed? Is that correct?
That's correct.
That is correct, yes.
All right, those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cunningham, questions?
Yes. Regarding the fence, just in case I didn't catch it because the connection may be spotty, what is the height of the fence on the San Pasquale frontage at the back of the sidewalk?
That is the maximum height of 3'6".
Okay, thank you. And it appears from the site plan that you are angling the driveway to essentially approach and you make use of the existing curb cut. Is that correct?
That is correct. We're going to be working with transportation. Yes, that is an existing curb cut that's only about 10 feet wide. And then there's an existing power pole just to the north of that. So we're going to be working with transportation on whether or not to find out the correct turnaround space and accessibility for both of those cars to enter properly.
Okay, thank you. And it's my understanding this is an open carport, not an enclosed garage?
That is correct.
Are there other examples of open carports in this neighborhood? And I'm not, I'm saying basically I'm looking for a preponderance of carports rather than 1 or 2.
Got it. Offhand, I can't recall if there was a lot of open carports, but there certainly was a lot of cars on the streets and into the driveways.
Okay. And seeing the, I'm a little bit of at a disadvantage because when I looked at this project on Google Street View, my impression was that we were talking about the Orange Avenue elevation, and the drawings that I saw when I looked at the plans did not show the street names. So obviously we're building on the San Pasqual side, and your photograph showed one or two trees on that side. Can you tell me what those trees are and what they will have been?
Yes, there's an existing orange tree, an existing, and I'm not sure, you might be able to be more familiar with that, a mature tree in the middle there. But obviously both of those will have to be removed for the construction of this. But the next stage, we're looking forward to working with the landscape architect in developing the courtyard and open spaces.
Okay, I think that's all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, David, questions?
I guess sort of a general question I might have is, so how would you describe the sort of the general architectural character of the neighborhood, and how are you responding to that with your design, just in terms of materials and, you know, architectural style, what have you?
Sure, I think a lot of the homes, especially on the Orange Avenue side and kind of dotted throughout, are kind of one-story, wood-sided, balcony-fronted, older houses, modest houses. And then over the years, there's been, you know, additions onto, you know, two-story stucco apartment buildings and other kind of ad hoc structures. And just looking at that, knowing that this will be two-story, wanted to blend in more with the neighborhood, with materiality and kind of the modest size of the units and scale of the project and scale of the homes. But
Okay.
Well, just reviewing a lot of the materiality was a lot of wood-sided structures.
Right. I would just add that if we can call our attention back to the photographs that Carl showed at the beginning, just those, as he says, those wood-sided structures, kind of, you know, somewhat agricultural, predominant gable ends. Those were some of the cues that we were working off of as we developed the design of what we've come up with here.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Okay, and then we have Richard. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, you mentioned that you are still working with the transportation department on your swing into the parking areas, right?
Yes.
And have they also approved your configuration of, it just seems like these cars going to be wanting to park under the cantilever or overhead structure, and that's less than 20 feet from the property line. Has that been talked about at transportation yet?
No, we haven't reached that. I'm just trying to, you know, conform to the requirements and get that taken care of. So it does in this scheme. If there's a better solution where they can agree to have the cars not parked far away from the street and allowed to be underneath there, then great.
So, but in other words, it hasn't been vetted yet. It hasn't been.
It has. They approved this layout and yeah, layout of the side by side and a carport into this area.
And with the jog and the backing out.
Again, we're working with transportation to get the best kind of layout, and if the curb cut needs to be widened and that power pole moved, then we'll certainly that be available for that.
Where do you service trash? What is your how do you envision the trash process?
The trash process, we were talking about that earlier because it's not shown in the plans here, but we do have some space in Unit A on the existing driveway, the private open yard space, between the private open yard space and the open yard space of those units. Private open yard space could be moved towards Orange Avenue, and an enclosure could be in the back there near the open yard space, so all the residents could access that.
So that hasn't been vetted by Marburg yet?
That is correct.
Okay. And I just, and this leads into a comment, but I'll try to refrain from comment. Did you study flipping the entry to Unit C to be common with the walkway that goes to Unit B, and still maintaining your bedrooms and so forth on the private side and sneaking by your bathrooms from a vestibule? It just seems like, you get out of your car and you have to walk out to the street, go through two courtyards to get to the opposite side of the building to enter your unit, and then up the stairs with your grocery bag. Was there a reason why you did not look at flipping that and having the entry to Unit C off the walkway?
Yeah, we looked at a couple different entryways off of those sides, and your point is well taken. I just think that the square footage of the homes and trying to maximize the square footage of all of that stuff would have an additional, circulation space in there that we didn't. The C to really kind of front the walkway rather than the side.
All right, then you mentioned.
I would add that just, creating separate entries for the two units so that it didn't feel like they were crowded and on top of one another was something that was, as you point out, there's an inconvenience to bringing things to your kitchen, but we thought this was overall a better setup of things in terms of each unit feeling like they had their own approach to their entryway.
Okay, and then you mentioned on your elevations, I think it's you label it as plaster/fiberboard. What does that mean, and what would the fiberboard material be? Is that by looking at a mineral board or what?
I think we're still studying that. I do like the look of kind of a split face block look on the first floor. I'm thinking more of kind of like a cementitious fiber panel board or something with a little bit of texture on that.
Okay, that wouldn't be a hardy board, it would be a cementitious board.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Not something super slick and glossy.
Okay, and then on your flat roofs, how are you going to, are those going to be one continuous sheet of metal, or how are you going to waterproof those flat roofs, and especially the intersection with the sloped roof?
Yeah, I think they would have to be worked out. I mean, conceptually, it wants to appear as a box, but you know, having a slightly sloped roof going, you know, to the sides or to the front of those balconies, I think is more appropriate. And as far as the materiality goes, having everything, I don't know, I see it more of a wood element than a metal element.
What's the wood element?
The balconies material?
I'm talking the roof of the balconies.
Correct. The roof element, well, it would be metal, kind of continuous with the metal roof. It would have a slight slope to it.
So you're intending it to be a sheet of metal?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
My question.
Okay, I think, have we heard from Leon? I don't think so yet.
Not yet.
Okay, questions?
So I'll stay on this sheet. I think I need to understand this box that sticks out there. And do I understand that it's a flat roof and the sides are not open and the floor is, I guess, enclosed, and then what the open part is just as we see it on this elevation, and that's the only open part of that box?
That is correct, yes. I mean, if you look at the floor plan, right behind it is going to be a sliding glass door system to get onto that balcony. So the light from that balcony will go clear through to the house. So it is an enclosed exterior space.
I think one sheet forward. There we
you
go. Yeah, that shows it.
Okay.
Unit B, there's a sliding door there going to the open space. And Unit C, there's a side window having access to the kitchen, and then from the living room, another sliding door system.
Okay. And the other question is about the parking, and you may have said this and I didn't hear it. There's two parking places and they are shared between the two units? They are shared parking places?
That is correct, yes. One parking space per each unit is required.
And could we see again how that circulation works for the, if they, well, maybe I can see that here if the unit B parks there, they go around what would be the north or south side? Well, maybe show me how that circulation works for the parked car.
Sure. If you are entering Unit B and parking on the, say, the more southern car, you just go to the walkway and enter your unit along the walkway there. If you are part of Unit C, you would have to walk onto the sidewalk and enter the two entry gates to get to the entry court, and then enter your unit from the side.
Okay. I think I understand. Thank you. That's my questions.
Okay. I guess my own question, so other than as a design choice, is there a reason the sort of projecting balconies are walled and roofed and not more of a traditional balcony without a roof?
Without a roof, I guess, and you know, it definitely wants to be more of of an element. I did like a balcony just for sun protection along that south side, is to have a roof and kind of enclose that for almost like an exterior room, but having that kind of openness of that.
Okay, and then can we go back to the photo exhibit? And in particular, can we look at the photos of the existing house to remain? Do we have, I mean, it's hard to see what the house actually looks like in this image.
Yes.
Yeah, the landscaping is growing right in front of the front facade, so it's very tricky to see it.
From front, there is the closed balcony in the front there. There's an entry door that goes there, and then to the right, there is kind of a glazed in balcony, and then a few feet beyond that,
Can you just flip through the photos, please? So where is this now? So driveway from Orange.
So basically from that photograph, take 10 steps to the right. So this is the driveway looking at the front of the house from a slight angle. And then
so it has shingles, the existing house has shingles, wood doors, and windows. Have a raised foundation, masonry chimney,
asphalt roof.
Roofing is a composite roof of some sort, it looks like.
Yes.
Comp shingle, okay. So fairly normal details and materials for that neighborhood.
Yes.
Well, you do have a photograph from the other side, as I remember, right? From the yard.
That is correct.
Can we look at that? That's it.
There you go.
Okay. That was my question, just getting a better sense of what's there. Okay, does anyone else have any follow-up questions?
I have one more question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Bob.
With regard to the site plan, did the applicant consider flipping the site plan in order to have the carport access on the upper side, I guess the north side of the property? Obviously, you're trying to save that existing curb cut, but it seems like you're really squeezing things in order to do that. Is there any reason why you could not flip that site floor plan and access more directly out onto San Pasqual Street?
Well, I feel pretty confident that working with transportation will be able to, adjust the curb cut and enter in a more kind of normal area. And yes, we looked at how you can flip this whole thing over and mirror this. I think it allows more space. You get more southern exposure from that, and then the kind of the shadows casting to the northern neighbor and to that northern area minimized.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Dennis, you had some questions?
Yes, in the previous image, it wasn't clear to me what the cladding on Unit A was. It was all painted gray, but looked like there was some wood framing that was gates. Was the other part shingles? That would be on our left.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's shingle clad. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, if that's all the questions, let's move on to comments. We have the applicants turn off their cameras so we can get all the board members up here. Thank you. All right. Let's see. Richard, would you like to start with comments?
Sure. I think that it's a creative plan. I like the articulation of the different planes overlapping each other, the roof pitches and so forth. I think it has a good sense of design. I do think that, as I mentioned in my questions, the entry to Unit C is extremely awkward functionally, but that's not architecture. But I do think that architecture is partly where the entry is announced and where one reads that entry. And I think that the side there with the extended gate, extended wall with the punch of the gate is okay, but I think that the fence in the front yard setback just should be given up to the street and not have to, if he's unwilling to flip Unit C, at least the front yard fence should go away, and so there'd be a more direct announcement of the architectural announcement of where Unit C's entry is. I'm concerned about privacy to the existing neighbors. I see that on the west elevation, or the upsheet to 830 Pasquale has, that's not that, yeah, that sheet right there. Thank you, Tim. Wow, I'm impressed. That has the open-ended balcony that I'm concerned about looking down to that neighbor, and the large window in the living space of the upper floor of Unit C there. I think that those should be studied for privacy issues, as well as the east elevation. There's also a identical window, a large window you see at the right-hand side that possibly is imposing on the privacy of the neighbor to the east. So I think that we need to have further confirmation. Those don't unnecessarily impose upon the neighbors. I'm thinking that I'm not comfortable with the way the trash is worked out. I'm not comfortable with the expression of the fiberboard. I think that, it should be more, and that's just too contemporary to the context that this sits in. It should either be plaster or some other more common, a material more common to the neighborhood. And I'm thinking that, and I think it was alluded to here that the expression of the boxes at the balconies is just too harsh or contemporary. And I think that it not only presents a physical problem of the waterproofing of that, but I think that it would be much more softer and more in keeping with the neighborhood to have that shed. Maybe it doesn't shed with the same pitch and plane as the main roof. Maybe it has a more shallower shed, but I think that would soften it much radically to where it would fit better in the neighborhood and be a much more pleasing design. So those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Bob, do you want to go next?
Sure. I would echo Richard's comments regarding the entrance to Unit C, I guess. I would, and also with regard to the windows overlooking the neighboring properties, I would go a little bit further with regard to access. I think the access to Unit B is kind of long and straight and dreary, walking past parked cars. I understand that this is it's a tight site, and I have no objection to providing the kind of housing that the applicant is trying to provide. I think that's admirable. But I think that long walkway to Unit B is pretty unpleasant, and I agree that the access to Unit C ought to be more direct from the carport. I don't agree with an open carport. I think this is an old traditional residential neighborhood, and open carports I don't think are part of that context. I am bothered by the asymmetrical gable roofs and the roof material and the big rectangular boxes of the balconies. That I don't see the need to depart so radically from the traditional styling that's predominant in the neighborhood. And I don't think this is the appropriate location to start expressing contemporary architectural styles. There is a very strong old style neighborhood here, and I think that needs to be respected above all. And I do appreciate the attempt to utilize the existing driveway, the curb cut. I appreciate that, and the fact that it's a narrow curb cut is definitely a bonus. But I think this needs to go, back in the direction of traditional styling. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Dennis, any comments?
Sure, I'll pick up on that, not to beat on this too much, but the parking really does look torturous, no matter how good a driver you are. And it's really not a carport as it's shown. It's more of a type of a porte-cochere where you've pulled out underneath the unit so that half the car is really exposed to the sky above, which would diminish any sort of courtyard that Unit B might achieve at its entryway. And to compound it all, it's on a ramp or a slope. It's just kind of a mess there. But to back up a bit, I do really enjoy the massing and interpenetration of spaces and planes. It's a very beguiling design in and of itself. The materials begin to express some of those found in the neighborhood, but I don't find that the volumetric expressions really reflect anything other than a contemporary. And this is best exemplified by the sort of projecting boxes of the balconies. So I think the design could go farther to fit in with the neighborhood. Let's see. I think that's about all I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Leon, do you have comments?
Yes. So I'm going to join the chorus here. I really think that both entries are compromised aesthetically, and walking in both of them seems like it's awkward and unpleasant. I think that providing a way to bring the cars off the street is important, especially in that neighborhood. And I think there are, in some ways, the design is clever, but I think it needs work on these entrances. And the projecting boxes, to my way of thinking, are unattractive. And those are my comments.
Okay, David, have we heard from you?
No, I really don't have anything to add. I would agree with what's been said. I find, in particular, those balconies pretty troublesome and really incompatible with the neighborhood. That's all I have.
Okay. My own comments will be similar. I find it difficult to get behind the exterior appearance of the proposed project, especially when the existing house on the same property is, you know, of such a different design and era. So I would encourage the applicant to take another look at what's already on site and what's nearby. I agree that the plan is interesting and potentially a nice place to live, but I think the exterior needs some more work and more study. Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion for indefinite continuance for the applicant to study with the idea of changing the style of the architecture to bring it more into compatibility with the neighborhood. That's a fairly general statement. I think specifically the asymmetrical or asymmetric gable arrangement is, at least for me, not appropriate, nor are the boxed balconies. And I would add that the metal roof is also not compatible. Right? There are plenty of options in the neighborhood to follow that aren't as contemporary. So those are, I guess, conditions for restudy. The applicant should return with a project that is more compatible with the neighborhood context. That completes my motion.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Leon. Any other discussion?
Yes, Bob, I don't necessarily think that metal roof, if the shape and the rest of the forms are compatible, is something that I wouldn't accept. Are you willing to drop that as an absolute requirement?
The metal roof, Richard?
Yeah.
I could compromise on that. I'm sorry, I want to add one more thing, and that is with regard to restudy of the entrances to both of the units. But yes, I can strike the metal roof issue from the motion.
Agreeable on both points.
And also, would you add to your motion further study and documentation of the privacy issues of upper story windows to adjacent neighbors?
Yes, I would.
Agreeable.
Okay. And also study and indicate the trash program.
Yes, I would add that as well. And as we're speaking, I'm thinking I would like to see examples of a predominance of carports in this neighborhood as opposed to closed garages. I'm not saying that carport is absolutely unacceptable if there are no other carports in the neighborhood, but I think a good case needs to be made for why this must be a carport and not an enclosed garage.
Then I also think that we're talking about enhancing the walkway or approach to both units?
That's correct.
Okay. So you're willing to add that to your motion?
Yeah, I thought I had, but yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay. Maybe I didn't hear it, sorry.
Well, it was a kind of rambling motion, so you may be forgiven for missing that.
Agree. We should probably read it back so we've got it correct, please.
Sure, this is Mary. So the motion is to continue indefinitely with the following comments. Study the style of the architecture of the project to make it compatible with the neighborhood, specifically the asymmetric gable arrangement, which is not appropriate, nor are the boxed balconies. Restudy the walkway entrances to both of the units. Further study and document potential privacy issues of the upper story windows to adjacent units. Study and indicate the trash program and show examples of the predominance of carports as opposed to closed garages in this neighborhood.
That was very good, Mary.
Very good, Mary. Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay. So if there's no further discussion, let's have our vote.
All right, so we have Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Cunningham,
Yes.
Board Member Olson,
Yes.
and Board Member Whalen.
Yes, to a very well stated proposal, Mary. Thank you.
Thank you, motion passes.
Okay, thank you all. And with that, we will close our agenda for today's ABR. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks,
See you in 2
everybody.
weeks.